to the Utah Puck Report. I'm your host, Jay Stevens. We've got a bonus episode this week. Tomorrow, we're talking to the Utah Hockey Club. Today, we're talking to the OG Utah Hockey Club, University of Utah. I was honored. I played there. I played at Weber, and then when I graduated Weber, I had to go to get my EMT. And I'm like, I can still play ACHA hockey while I'm getting my EMT. And then even after I got hired on the fire department, I played half a season. So I got a season and a half with the University of Utah, and it was fun. I played with some of the best people I've ever played with, like people-wise, doctors and lawyers and people that were just using hockey as kind of like a therapy session while they were in school getting these advanced degrees. Head coach from the University of Utah, Morgan Feenie, is on. I've got AJ. AJ, you've been on the show a bunch. And then one of my favorite people to talk to about youth hockey, because somebody that is so passionate about fixing and helping youth hockey here. And I like to say it because you just don't have a dog in this fight. You're doing it out of the goodness of your heart. George Chalos. George, where are you today? Where are you joining us from?
I'm in my Houston office and heading up to Oklahoma tomorrow for a North American League game, and then I'm in trial next week in New York, and then meeting the team, the University of Utah men's team out in St. Louis for the Nationals.
Man, you've just got so much going on. You're a lawyer, so you've got your law firm. You are what's your title with the University of Utah?
Associate coach.
Okay, and then you're an associate coach. You've helped with Park City. You've helped with so much here, and then you also just happen to own a team in the Knoll.
Yeah, that's true. I got a few things cooking.
A few things cooking, man. When I started to complain about how busy I feel, like with a full time job and then a couple part time hustles, and then I'm like, well, George has got to be my inspiration. Like I probably could take on one more thing because George has a pot in every fire. It seems like. Tell us a little bit about how did you come about owning a team in the Knoll? Who do you own, and do you have any Utah players on that team?
Yeah, so actually, it's a great story. The team is called the Oklahoma Warriors. They're based out of the Blazers Ice Center in Oklahoma City, which traditionally has always been a minor league city, right? That they had a Central League team there that drew unbelievable fans, like 10,000 a game in the old Central League. And then they tried to move it to the American League, and I don't think they had the same success predominantly because of the pricing and the membership became available. Not this past season, the season before, and I was in the running to get it, and ultimately was approved by the board of governors. And I'm grateful to be in that spot. And from my side, I can tell you that I never, ever in a million years uh, knew how big the operation actually is, because there's what you see is quite literally the tip of the iceberg. There's so much that goes on behind the scenes. And it's a big deal, and I'm really grateful to be involved there. But for me, one of the biggest rewarding pieces of it all is that that is really just a 9 iron or a chip shot away from putting kids into college. And we're trying really hard to put kids in like really good academic facilities. And I'm really lucky that I can introduce our players to the University of Utah, which we don't have anyone committed yet, but there's a lot of young guys. Our team's very young. There's a lot of young guys that are talking about it. And we've got a homegrown guy called Paul Wiechek playing on the team now. And we've got another guy out of Salt Lake that's been up and down between our NA3 affiliate, Long Beach Sharks, called Mason Jackson. So we'll see. Hopefully, we'll keep him on our radar as well.
Yeah, that's very cool. And it's funny because you mentioned your Long Beach team, which you had prior, and we know some Utah guys went and played there. I think you had a Brickley play there at one point. We were trying to feed a lot of guys into that. And now we've just got this natural progression that we haven't had before. It's one thing that the NHL came in, and that's really going to help Utah. But just the connection with you and that Park City group that you just have like, all right, you're good enough. Let's go see if you could play in Long Beach. And then if you're good enough, you can go play in Oklahoma now. And now the NAHL the USHL and the NAHL are the top two feeders for the NCAA Division One, Division Three, and then if now you can feed guys into the ACHA with your University of Utah. That's just an amazing, like beginning to end pipeline that you just brought to this to this area that we didn't have before.
Yeah, like I think it's a bigger, broader focus than that, right? From my side, if I was the king of the world, I'd want it to be sort of learn to play vertically integrated to kids coming to college, right? And I think that now we've got the pieces and the pipeline in place, but I think there's going to be big things coming out of Salt Lake City, both as a byproduct of the pro team coming there, but more specific to what we do, by a byproduct of the success of the M1 and the M2 men's teams at the University of Utah. Of course, the women are dynamite themselves. They had a pretty good run in the playoffs, but they're done for the season. But for a school that is in a major city with a major airport with a spectacular rink and unbelievable access to ice and coaches, like we've got something really special cooking.
Yeah, I had the University of Utah on a couple weeks ago, and that kind of inspired me to start looking more into what was going on with the programs here at the ACHA D2 level, which you guys call your men's two. That's where you've got your UVU, Weber State, Utah State, and then your U team. Um, Great programs. And then you guys also have the elevated program of the M1 ACHA Division One. And now it's amazing. So now both those teams are going to nationals. Is that correct?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Absolutely.
So AJ, you what? Tell me your title again with the U.
I'm president and general manager of the men's programs.
And you've just been here for a long time, chipping away. I've known you for it seems like forever.
Yeah.
Just chipping away and building and building and building. And then you seem to bring in these people. We're going to talk about Morgan in a second, his qualifications and why he was so important to this organization. But then bringing in somebody like George, and you constantly bring in people that can take the product to the next level, right? And it seems like when did the idea of going with a D1 program, um, was that the intent? Go, let's go M1, ACHA D1, and build a better program. Was that the end goal, or is there another step? You know what I'm talking about. We'll
Of
get to
course.
that. Is that the goal?
Yeah. I mean, for me, continual improvement is always a key thing. And even if you have a successful season last season, you still had to repeat it. And for us, we started really dominating Division Two back in 2014, 2015. We actually hosted the national tournament back in 2015, and then we got the auto bid again for 2016. And at that time, the players, myself, the front office, we really wanted to elevate our program and move up to Division One ACHA. And we did that in 2016, 2017 with a hybrid season, and then have been slowly working towards a top 10 ranking ever since. And you're mentioning the next step from that is an NCAA team, and I think that's obviously the goal for us. Not only do I come from a hockey state of Minnesota, where there are lots of NCAA teams, for me, I think bringing that type of hockey to the state of sport is a fantastic move and one that we've been striving for a long time. You mentioned the expanding our staff. I think really what's important to me is get the right people in place and get out of the way. And I don't have the skill set to do everything all the time. And when we were lucky enough to get Morgan, I knew we had a really bright future at the Division One level because he brings so much experience and skill. And then he built his team, his coaching team around his vision. And at that point, it's my job to support them and again, stay out of the way. My main goal for all of our coaches is, and this includes the women's and the Division Two teams, is to make sure that the front office is taking care of the details so they can just focus on the hockey. And I think
cool.
it's been successful, and I'm hoping that we can continue to improve.
I remember my first year of playing, and it was the first year that the ACHA had come back to Utah. I know that you had a program first, like in the early '80s, and then it was gone. And then in the early '90s, it came back, and I was lucky enough to be part of that. But so my first year at Weber State, I was the starting goalie, the president of the team. I handled all the promotions. I handled all the sales. I handled it was just nonstop work, and it really did start getting in the way of school a little bit,
Yeah.
kind of. But down the road, all that experience actually probably helped me more than most of my classes at Weber. But just basically because of what I ended up doing. Morgan, tell us a little bit about you and how you got involved with this program and like what it was like your first day looking at this, being like, okay, now I'm the head coach of the University of Utah men's ACHA D1 program, and this is what I'm looking at. How much did I just bite off?
Yeah, great question. So, I've been coaching pretty much since 2008. I moved out here in 2013, and coached youth hockey. And then during COVID, actually, a buddy of mine reached out and said, "Hey, this position's open. I think it's perfect for you." And at the time, we were building a home. I have a full-time day job, and George would laugh at me because he would think that's nothing, but
You only have one job?
yeah. And after speaking with some mentors in the hockey community here, reaching out to Jack Skilly, one of my buddies, they kind of pushed me towards it. And after speaking with AJ and kind of giving him my outlook of what I expect, if I'm going to get into this, we're going to be a national championship team. I'm going to, shake things up a little bit. I'm going to bring my own staff on. And AJ, as he had previously mentioned, incredibly supportive, gave me the reins and the authority to make those decisions. And ultimately, this is kind of where we are today. And every year, as AJ had mentioned, we have gotten better. This program, from day one when I came in, we have done things to make this program, in my eyes, an NCAA product. And I think it's a testament that we get so many D3 transfers. And I think every year you're going to see that only get, stronger. And yeah, it's just when I get involved in something, I have so much passion that some people are, hey, we're okay where we are. And that wasn't the case. AJ said, go for it. Let's take this thing to the next level. And fortunately, that's where we are today.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I want to touch on what you're talking about with the NCAA D3 transfers because we talk about going to NCAA, and a lot of the people I've talked to, there were a lot of kids that push and push and push their entire life. And, they play from 5 years old and then they hit 18 and then they play juniors. And then they start looking like, hey, I'm not going to NCAA Division One. And we talked about this a couple weeks ago with your other kids on the team. It's okay, I can go NCAA Division Three at a school that's 75 grand that nobody's ever heard of, or that you maybe every once in a while you'd be like, oh, there's that weird school that was in the Sweet 16 that one time or whatever, right? And or you could go ACHA Division One, still have really competitive hockey, go play at the U for 10 grand a year, or whatever it is now, 15 grand. I know it's a lot less because my son graduated there just recently, and he was at Westminster paying a lot of money and saved me a ton of money by changing to the U. And that's what I love about the U is that there's that option, and it's a great option. It's something that is almost refreshing that when you look at it, you're like, that's the right choice for me. That's a better route for me financially. And the University of Utah is such a great school. And I mean, it did so much for me in my career, and it's done so much for my family and all my family's careers, except for my wife who went to BYU, but we won't bring that up. But so you have that, and now you guys have done all this work, and out of nowhere, the NHL comes into town. Like rumors were around a little bit when Arizona started having trouble, but then all of a sudden Arizona isn't a thing anymore, and the Utah Hockey Club comes into town. And one of the first things I asked Gary Bettman when I got to interview him, which was a very intimidating interview for me, I got to tell you, he's a very intimidating person to interview. But I asked him, I said, hey, I've seen what the NHL has done in other markets. Are you going to look at bringing the NCAA to Utah? And he said, yeah, we're already looking at it. We're already going to set up feasibility studies. We've already looked at the University of Utah and Weber State. We've already looked at their facility. He's familiar with those facilities. They have like this goal of having 5,000 seats, but they've shown that maybe that's not the goal, more of a suggestion. Like if you already have a rink, you guys hold 2,500. Is that right, AJ?
Yes, sir.
So you guys hold 2,500. I think Weber State's at 1,800 or 2,000, something like that. But they were also built where they could knock down those other two walls. That was part of the deal for the Olympics, that they could knock down two walls and add more seats and another sheet if they wanted. That was all told to me that first year we had that rink. So you guys are in prime spot. So I guess my question is, have you talked to the University of Utah admin? Is that something they're interested in? And B, what's the real logistics of going from ACHA? How much money do you have to have in the bank? How many players do you have to have that are that caliber? And I'm just going to open that up to the panel of you guys to answer, because I know you guys
Sure.
all have your own pieces of that.
I'll start if you guys don't mind. So for us, the feasibility study is key. And once the university signs off on that, then the real experts get to work. From a facility point of view, I think Arizona State is a prime model for us to make the move. Greg Powers did the exact same thing we're trying to do in a masterful way. I think that was about 10 years ago. They went in and really started dominating ACHA D1 play. They got the donor to make it happen, and the rest is history. And in recent history, at least at the university, the lacrosse team has done this very thing. And so I think really what we're looking for is a right opportunity and the right timing to not only get the feasibility completed, and once that's done, we can start fundraising and hopefully make this move in a very calculated manner. And if we need to make facility improvements, then let's figure it out.
So George, I think that's where you'd come in, not with your pocketbook, but with your connections, right? What does a feasibility study do for you in your world? What do we expect to see in a feasibility study?
Well, I think it's a complicated story, right? Because I think they look at sustainability. I think that's the real goal in the feasibility study, because they don't want to have a team come in, it's a one and done, right? And they can't bring someone in that's not going to be at least theoretically competitive, perpetually competitive, right? And so, it's funny because the NCAA is a really good governing body, and they do a good job. But they're not geographically diverse yet, right? You look at the footprint, with a few exceptions in the West and the mountain region, all their cluster of Division I teams is sort of Northeast centric. And then if you look at the NCAA D3 footprint, it's the same footprint in the Northeast, and then you get sort of the Midwest, the Upper Peninsula schools, the Minnesota schools. But I think, though, what we've learned, and I'm certainly an advocate for, is that if the NCAA was going to make a move and try to be more geographically diverse, the league that the University of Utah currently plays in, WCHL, has got the footprint already. It's already made. It's ready made for them, with a couple of teams and a couple of organizations doing a little bit of upgrading to their facilities. Like, we've got really strong teams that could come in very quickly and be competitive and be sustainably competitive. Now, the rub is that the academics, at least at the U, the requirements are high, right? Like, we can't just take a dopey guy that knows how to skate around pretty good. We've got to take actual student athletes, which puts us at a little bit of a disadvantage. But from a coaching perspective, and I'm sure Coach Morgan can share more on this, right? That's way better for us as a coaching staff to get really intelligent players that come, and we can work with them technically, tactically, and cognitively. And that's really the secret sauce, I think, for where we've been headed.
Okay. So Morgan, let's say this happens. They say, "Hey, all right, University of Utah looks like they're legit, um, and now we got to move forward. You've got 3 years to figure this out." What does that look like from a coaching standpoint? What do you have to do? I've seen before, and we saw this year. UNLV played DU. Is that what happens next year? If they told you right now that you had 3 years, would all of a sudden there be NCAA teams on your schedule next year?
I think, these teams that are playing them are reaching out and getting on their books. And I wouldn't necessarily say, hey, those teams that are playing the NCAA D1 teams are that much further ahead in the process. I think it's them, reaching out to these NCAA schools, using it as a recruitment tactic, because again, going back to the D3 recruits that are potentially interested in coming, a bubble guy that's thinking about going NCAA, even NCAA D1, um, being able to come to them and say, hey, we are going to be playing two NCAA D1 teams for exhibition. We'll be playing them again in holiday break. That goes a long way with recruitment. In terms of what we need to do, like if we were told in 3 years NCAA is coming, I think going back to what AJ had mentioned with the blueprint that Greg Powers had built at ASU, they were national championship contenders in the league that they were at. So we have made leaps and bounds to where we are today, eighth in the country. We're going to make an absolute run here in a couple of weeks at nationals. But I would say those next following years, we need to prove ourselves on the ice. And so that would be the biggest thing from a coach's perspective of, hey, we need to prove that we are worthy of being a top team in the ACHA. And then when we do make that jump, we're competitive in that league too. So thinking about last year, Lindenwood winning the national, or 2 years ago, Lindenwood winning the national championship in the ACHA, they're now a D1 program. ASU, they were, they had won national championships, contenders, runners up year over year. They go NCAA D1. So from an on ice perspective, that is what we would need to do, with this program. Just continue trending in the right direction, be a national championship team or a runner up year over year.
And that brings us up to looking in the background of what you've got right now. You guys qualified. You're currently M1 ranked 8th in the nation.
Correct.
And what about M2?
Do they do rankings, AJ?
They were second in the West, Jay, and
Okay.
that puts them in the auto bid spot, which only is given to 8 teams in the country.
Okay. So figure they're both top 8. Tell me more. I know that these kids have to pay for this out of their own pocket, right? That's the bad part about ACHA. And I remember, like I said, at Weber, going door to door, business to business, trying to hit them up for money. Now you guys make it to nationals. Where are nationals for M1 this year?
They're actually both in the same location. The ACHA has condensed the national tournament, and they partner with NHL teams to do so. And so this is the second or third year we've been in St. Louis, March 13th through the 19th, and all 5 divisions, men's 1, 2, and 3, women's 1 and 2, all condense and consolidate in St. Louis for that 10-day period.
Wow. That's a lot of hockey going on in
Yeah.
that area. That's amazing. Morgan, tell me a little bit. I see behind you got a QR code.
Yep.
So if people want to help, tell me what kind of money does it cost to send the team right now? Like what are you guys looking for?
Yeah, and AJ will have specifics on that. I'd like to actually take a step back and just, at the ACHA level, you had mentioned these athletes pay to play. That's another reason why I started coaching here. You're not getting guys that are getting scholarships. You're getting guys that are so passionate about the sport. These are, it's arguably their most favorite time of the day is when they're on the ice. They are choosing to spend money on top of tuition to play. In the organization, we have players from 25 different states, 6 countries. Out-of-state tuition is not cheap. International tuition with exchange rates, not cheap. So these athletes are coming to get their degree, and as George mentioned, high GPAs. You're getting individuals that are motivated, and we're here. Our entire staff is volunteer based. We do that to keep their dues that they have to pay down, and so ultimately, they're they're wanting a degree, they're wanting to play the sport, and this is the dance. They're going to nationals, and this is not baked into their dues because if we did that, it would be even higher at the beginning of the year. This is all gravy. And so now they have to go and fundraise for the cost associated with traveling. They all have jobs on top of being a student and being an athlete. And so this puts them in a tough spot because they want to go and win a national championship, but they also have to find a way to fund it. And so that's why I've printed out a QR code behind me.
I love it.
Any sort of help goes a long way. And AJ has specifics on how much this costs.
Sure.
He organizes everything and books everything, so he knows the details. We're just here trying to support these men on establishing their dream of winning a national championship.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up that you guys were all volunteers too, because people don't understand that you're at the rink 5-6 days a week, and you've got your own family, you've got your own job, you got your own mortgage that you got to cover, and it's a huge thing for you guys to do, and it means so much. I coached for 19 years, and I loved every minute of it. But man, when it was over, I was like, what do I do with all my free time? It's so crazy to wake up in the morning and not be scrambling to try to figure out practices and get to the rinks, and people just don't see the work that goes on behind the schedule. So big props to you guys. AJ, tell us, man, what are we looking for here? How can we help? How can I
Sure.
get my fans to help?
Awesome. Well, Jay, we can't thank you enough for having us on the air. And the one thing that I do want to mention is we have, out of our 80 plus student athletes, 44 of them were on the dean's list this last semester. And so it's not only the hockey side of things. All of these student athletes are doing their jobs in the classroom as well and excelling. And that includes our men's 2 team GPA was 3.3, our men's 1 GPA was 3.4. And just amongst those 2 teams, 32 guys were on the dean's list, and the women's team pretty much led the way academically as well. But each team has roughly 35 people plus the coaching staff. So we're looking to raise $25,000 to $30,000 for each team, and that goes to airfare, hotels, and we're even saving money this year by sharing a bus. The schedule's lined up, and there's no point in having 2 buses when they're all idle. So when one team's not playing, the other team is, and we're sharing a bus to save funds. So like Morgan said, scan that QR code. We got some graphics, hopefully, that we'll see as well later on. But every dollar helps, and we understand that everybody else has a mortgage as well. But please help us help these young men achieve their dreams.
Well, and just more than helping these kids, I want to help the kids. Believe me, I get it. As a player that was there, I remember the first year going to nationals. It was in Florida, and it was sadly, I think that's when I got addicted to Disneyland and Disney World. But because that was the first time I ever went. But I think as you're looking at, it's one thing, these kids are going to go and they're going to play and they're going to be awesome and they're going to get their degrees and life's going to move on. But like what Morgan was talking about, the more times we can send a team to the national championships, the better they do, the higher the odds are going to be that we go NCAA. And I really want to see that. I really want to see that for Weber. I really want to see that for the U. I know I'm biased because I played for both schools and both schools are so dear to my heart, but I would love to see that. And I just think this is you guys are on the right path. So I want to make sure I help. So yeah, I'll add that. I'll make that graphic behind Morgan is going to be the main part of the podcast post for the Utah Puck Report. We're going to do everything we can to help you guys get there and do well. And George, before we go, man, I just want to say thanks for everything you've been doing for this market. I got to have you on. I want to have a brass tacks talk with you and Skilly. I want to hear your guys's no nonsense, no holds barred talk about you might burn a bridge or two, whatever. But I want to hear you talk about what we need to do to fix youth hockey here. I think the wheels are already in motion. I think the Utah Hockey Club's looking at Vegas and Seattle, and I've heard Chicago. I've heard they've gone in and they've looked at what other markets have done. They've brought in people with that experience, but I want to just get that talk because I know once we get you talking, you'll just say the right stuff. And George,
Uh,
you've been such a big help for us here.
I don't know, Jay. I have an amazing ability to put my foot in my mouth every time I start opening it up. But look, I'd love to have that conversation, but I tell you where it has to start, right? People in our hockey community in Utah have to understand that the grass isn't always greener somewhere else, right? The grass is green where you water it. And that's what we're trying to do. All of us are trying to do right in our own backyard. And, you've heard me say it many times before, Jay. Like we have so much ice in world-class facilities in a very short physical distance from each other. We have a tremendous capacity, and we've got great coaches, and we've got an airport that can get us to any team that we want to play anywhere in the states or beyond. Right? We really have to focus on our own and make Utah first as far as the hockey development. And now with the Utah Hockey Club being here, with the U having such great success, I really am big proponent of making Salt Lake a destination for youth college and pro hockey and bring people to us as opposed to us always having to go to somewhere else.
I absolutely love that. And that's exact my first conversation with Ryan Smith. He said he wants to make Utah a hockey state. He wants Utah to be the state of hockey. And his goal is 70,000 youth hockey players. He said it. He's building rinks. So we got 2 more sheets that'll be done in October this year that he's going to open up for, everybody to rent and play just like anything else. And, there's a lot more rinks like that coming. So I think what you're saying and what he's saying, and that saying that you just said of the grass isn't always greener, it's greener where you water it. That is something that I kind of learned from my father. It's a similar saying to what JP Parisi told me back in the early days when I got to have access to him and learn from him. And that's what Utah needs to focus on right now. And George, I'll tell you, I sat there one time when you were talking to a player and you were telling him about your pipeline. And I heard that player's parent basically was completely skeptical of you and that pipeline. Like they didn't know anything about hockey, but they're still gonna argue with you and your pipeline. And that's the other part that has to go away too, is people that don't understand about hockey need to stop acting like they understand what it takes to be successful in hockey.
Yeah, but I think you got to take sort of the us against them mentality out of it, right? It's a matter of education. It's a matter of having some trust and confidence. And for me, I probably spend more time talking to people that walk away from conversations not knowing, right? Because how can they be a sophisticated consumer of subject matters that they don't understand, they don't have experience with? So they're not, right? We see over and over and over again that parents get sucked into this information of misinformation, a network of misinformation amongst other parents. And then you add the FOMO on top of it, right? Oh, my kid's going to play here. Oh, my kid went and played there. And then the next thing you know, they have zero path, right? And so I've been a huge proponent, and I continue to advocate for hockey families being properly educated and breaking it down to 4 5-year plans, right? 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That's the first of your 5-year plans when the kids and their families have to fall in love with it. They have to fall in love with it and they have to buy into it. 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. Well, we all know what that means. USA Hockey says 11 and 12 is the golden age of development. So that's when they're getting their technical skills and they're developing muscle memory and they're starting to learn a little bit of tactical as well. But as they move to 13, 14, the world goes upside down because now they're introducing body contact, right? And that's the kid that was maybe the superstar at 8 and 10 may not be that same player once the body contact starts. And in 15, it changes again because now they've got to learn how to compete. And then that third of the 5-year plan, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20, that's the age group that we at you are looking at, right? Because that's the feeders for us. And those players have to have the right internal fuel. Those players have to have, obviously, good academic success. And then, of course, they've got to be able to perform physically at the athletic side of the competition. and then we get them at 20, right? 21, 22. And I know Coach Morgan's super proud, and I'm super proud of last year's captain, Dylan Dix, is playing pro over in Europe this year. And I know that's a goal for a lot of our guys. And we try to help them out as best we can and keep them going and get them ready for um, some of that opportunity that comes their way.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, we're gonna have that talk, and we're gonna you, me, and Skilly. We're gonna sit down and map out a big plan this summer. It'll be it'll be a guide for parents.
You guys will get me in trouble. I don't know.
That's all right. We'll get us all in trouble. What's wrong with a little trouble? That's what lawyers are for, right?
That's what they tell me.
All right, Morgan. We just want to tell you good luck. Please check back with us. Send us highlights. Send us texts. We'll get as much stuff up as we can. We'll try to support you in every way we can. And thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Jay. Seriously, this has been amazing, and everything you do to grow the game in Utah. I moved out here like I said, in 2013, and this is a dream that we have this much involvement and people willing to grow the game here. So thank you.
Thank you. And AJ, here we go, man. It's all the work you've done, all the work we talked about, all the dreams and everything, man. It looks like it's coming. Like the Legos are falling in place. All we got to do is put them all together, and it's guys like you that are going to make it happen. So AJ, thank you for taking the time of being on the show. Thank you for all the work you've done at the U.
Thank you guys. Again, it takes an army to do this type of stuff, and all the volunteers, Amy with the women's team, Rodney, that staff. It's incredible what people are willing to do when everybody can share a vision. And I've been at this for 17 years now, up at the U, and every year gets a little more rewarding. And I think that also requires a little more work, but they go hand in hand together. And like Morgan said and George said, Jay, you've been part of this community for a long time, and we thank you as well.
Yeah, no, I love it. And we're seeing more, like you talk about Dick's playing pro, and you got Matt Coma who's doing stuff with the NHL now. So it's not just on the ice, it's these other guys that are doing volunteer work or whatever. And then, like I said, I'm an alum too. And so you're seeing the University of Utah reach throughout the NHL, throughout minor leagues, and everywhere. So it's just amazing. I love that what we've been doing here, even though I only went to the U to play hockey. I only went to Weber to play hockey. The degree just happened because I had to play hockey. I had to keep going to school to get the degree, right? Or
yeah.
If I wanted to play hockey, I had to attend class. If I wanted to keep playing hockey, I had to pass those classes. And so that was the big motivator for me. And now that pays my mortgage. So
sure. The one thing that I do want to add to that, Jay, is every kid that comes to our program comes because of the hockey and the academics. They're again hand in hand. It's not like somebody shows up on campus and decides to play. That really isn't what ACHA is about. People are making major life decisions, including going to which college based on the hockey program, and you nailed it. It's a motivating factor, not only to venture out into a new state if you're not from Utah, or to get that degree and keep pursuing academics, because it does pay off.
Absolutely. All right, go Utes. Good luck at Nationals for M1 and M2. I was really hoping the women were going to make it this year, but that just gives us another goal for next year, right?
Yep.
All right, that is the Utah Puck Report. Thanks for joining us for another episode of the Utah Puck Report. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Rate us, leave us feedback, let us know what you want us to do better. Big thanks to our sponsors, Only Crowns. Love having a dentist sponsor for the hockey podcast. Check them out at onlycrowns.com. Thanks to KSL Sports, the Utah Hockey Club, Madison Miller, and Tegan Stevens for producing. And thanks to the American Hitmen for that awesome intro song. We'll see you next week.